The marble floors of Sterling Enterprises headquarters still echoed with the same hollow sound I remembered from childhood. Standing in the lobby after 7 years felt surreal, like stepping into an old photograph where everything looked the same but felt completely different. I adjusted my tailored navy suit, a far cry from the hand-me-downs I used to wear when my father first married Diana Sterling, making her son Ethan my unwanted stepbrother. "Well, look who's playing dress-up," a familiar voice mocked from behind. Ethan's assistant, lingering nearby, smirked as I turned. "Still think you belong here, Emma?" I ignored her, clutching my briefcase tighter, the weight of my plan grounding me. Now, at 34, I was returning not as Emma Larson, the awkward stepdaughter, but as someone else entirely, Miss Larson. The receptionist looked up, confusion crossing her face. "I don't see you on the list for today's annual board meeting." "Check again," I smiled. "I should be there." Ethan's voice carried across the lobby, dripping with the same arrogance he'd perfected since prep school. "What's this, Emma? Crawling back to beg for scraps?" he taunted, loud enough for the lobby to hear. "You were always a charity case." My jaw tightened, but I kept my composure. "Funny, Ethan. I'm not the one clinging to a crumbling empire. Is there a problem here?" He looked exactly as I remembered, expensive suit, perfectly styled hair, and that smug expression that came from being the Sterling heir apparent. His steps faltered slightly when he recognized me. "Emma," he recovered quickly, sneering. "What an unexpected surprise. Come to beg for another job?" The memory stung 7 years ago when Dad died suddenly. Ethan had orchestrated my removal from the company. Budget cuts, he'd called it, though everyone knew the truth. The stepdaughter didn't fit into Diana and Ethan's vision for Sterling Enterprises. "You humiliated me back then," I said, voice low but sharp. "Told everyone I was incompetent. Today, you'll eat those words." Ethan scoffed, but a flicker of unease crossed his eyes. "Actually," I kept my voice steady, "I'm here for the board meeting." Ethan laughed, the sound echoing off the marble. "The board meeting? That's precious. Sorry, sis, but this is for shareholders only." He moved to block the elevator. "Why don't you run along and play consultant somewhere else?" If only he knew what I'd been doing these past 7 years. While they thought I was failing at starting my own consulting firm, I'd been executing the plan Dad had set in motion long before his death. "You always underestimated me," I said, stepping closer. "Dad warned you I'd outsmart you one day. Guess he was right." Ethan's smile faltered, his confidence cracking. "Mr. Sterling," the receptionist interrupted timidly, "there is a listing. It just came through. Miss Larson is—" "Impossible," Ethan snapped. "I personally approve all attendees. This is a restricted meeting for major shareholders only." I pulled out my phone, opening an email I'd received this morning. "Interesting. You should mention shareholders, Ethan. Have you checked the company registry today?" His face flickered with the first trace of uncertainty. "What are you talking about?" "You're not as untouchable as you think," I said, voice cold. "I've been watching every move you've made, every dirty deal. You're done." "Maybe we should discuss this upstairs," I suggested. "The board is waiting after all." "This is ridiculous." He blocked my path. "Security!" Diana emerged from the elevator, her expression souring when she saw me. "What is she doing here?" "Mum, I'm handling it," Ethan assured her. "I checked my watch. It's 2:58 p.m. The meeting starts in 2 minutes. Shall we discuss this here in the lobby, or would you prefer to maintain some dignity and take this upstairs?" Diana's perfectly styled hair couldn't hide her twitching eye, a tell I remembered well from childhood. "You're a pest, Emma," Diana hissed. "Always were. You'll regret this." I smiled thinly. "The only regret here is yours for underestimating me." She knew something was wrong. "Let her up," Diana said finally. "We'll deal with this disruption properly." As we rode up in the elevator, I thought about Dad's last words to me. "Be patient, Emma. Everything is in place. Just wait for the right moment." In the elevator's silence, Ethan muttered, "You're bluffing. You've got nothing." I met his gaze in the reflection, Keep telling yourself that, you'll see soon enough. The right moment had finally arrived. The boardroom looked exactly as I remembered. Floor-to-ceiling windows, massive mahogany table, and 12 of Chicago's most powerful executives waiting expectantly. Their expressions ranged from confusion to curiosity as I walked in behind Ethan and Diana. "This is a closed meeting," Ethan announced loudly. "Security will be here shortly to—" "Actually," I interrupted, "I believe this is exactly where I'm supposed to be after all." I smiled, watching Diana's face. "A majority shareholder should attend these meetings, don't you think?" "Majority shareholder," Ethan barked a laugh. "You're delusional. This is my company." I tilted my head. "Yours? We'll see about that." The room went silent. Ethan's sneer froze on his face. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just showing up, it's showing up with receipts. The boardroom's tension could have been cut with a knife as I calmly took a seat at the far end of the table. Ethan remained standing, his face fluctuating between shades of red and white. "This is absurd." Diana finally broke the silence, her manicured hands gripping the back of her chair. "Ethan, call legal immediately. She's wasting our time," Diana snapped at the board. "This is a stunt." I leaned back, unfazed. "A stunt? Then why do you look so scared, Diana?" I opened my briefcase, removing a thick folder emblazoned with the company logo. "Already done. Your legal team received all the documentation an hour ago. I believe Mr. Thompson should be arriving right about." The boardroom door opened, and Charles Thompson, Sterling Enterprises' longtime legal counsel, walked in. His expression was grave as he nodded to me. "The documents are legitimate," he announced, causing a ripple of whispers around the table. "Legitimate?" Ethan shouted. "She's a nobody. This is fraud." I smirked. "Fraud? That's rich, coming from you." Over the past 7 years, through a series of carefully structured investments and proxy holdings, Miss Larson has acquired controlling interest in Sterling Enterprises. Ethan slammed his hand on the table. "That's impossible. We would have known. Every major share transaction requires board approval, unless," I smiled, "those shares were acquired through multiple shell companies, each purchasing just under the reporting threshold. You schemed behind our backs." Ethan's voice cracked. "You're pathetic." I leaned forward. "Pathetic? I learned from you. Every backstab, every lie. I just did it better." Companies that, as of this morning, transferred all holdings to Larson Global Investments. Diana sank into her chair, her perfectly composed facade cracking. "How much?" 80%, I stated clearly, watching their faces, "which makes me, effective immediately, the majority shareholder of Sterling Enterprises." Diana's voice was a venomous whisper. "You'll pay for this, Emma." I met her glare. "Hey, I already bought the company. You're the one who's broke." The board members shifted uncomfortably. These weren't just any executives. They were Diana's carefully chosen allies, each owing their position to her influence. "This is Father's company." Ethan's voice shook with rage. "You have no right." "Actually," I cut in, "this was my father's company too. Or did you forget that he was CEO before you and Diana orchestrated his early retirement?" I laughed bitterly. "You forced him out, humiliated him. You thought I'd let that slide?" Ethan's fists clenched, his control slipping. The truth hung heavy in the air. Everyone knew how Diana had manipulated her way into both the company and my father's life, positioning Ethan as the heir apparent while systematically pushing Dad aside. "Mr. Thompson," I continued, "please distribute the new organisational charts." As the documents circulated, Ethan's face grew increasingly pale. The restructuring plan was comprehensive. "You're erasing us," Ethan spat, flipping through the pages. "This is personal." I nodded. "Damn right it is. You made it personal when you betrayed my father. New board members, new management structure, and, most importantly, new ownership. You can't do this." Diana whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. can't I? I pulled up the company's financial records on the screen. Shall we discuss the creative accounting that's been happening under your leadership? The offshore accounts, the mysterious consulting fees to shell companies owned by your brother. You've been stealing for years, I said, voice icy. I have the receipts, every transaction, every fake invoice. Diana's face drained of colour. Several board members suddenly found their phones fascinating, avoiding Diana's desperate glances. Or perhaps, I continued, we should talk about what really happened to my father's shares after his death, the ones that supposedly were sold to cover estate taxes. Ethan's hand trembled as he reached for his water glass. You're digging your own grave, he muttered. I raised an eyebrow. Am I? Or is it you who's been burying secrets? He knew exactly what I was referring to. The forged documents, the manipulated transfer records. Those transactions were all legal, he managed. Were they? I raised an eyebrow. The SEC might disagree. In fact, they're very interested in reviewing everything that's happened here over the past 9 years. You're bluffing again, Ethan said, but his voice wavered. The SEC won't touch us. I smiled. They were already here, Ethan. Check the lobby. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Diana's carefully constructed empire was beginning to crumble, and everyone in the room knew it. The choice is simple, I stated, standing to address the board. Either we handle this transition professionally, or we can let federal investigators handle it. Your decision. As if on cue, my phone buzzed, a text from my team downstairs. Everything was in place for what came next. You think you've won? Diana hissed. This isn't over. I leaned in. It's over when I say it is. You have 5 minutes to decide, I announced. Choose carefully. The clock on the wall ticked loudly as Diana and Ethan exchanged panicked looks. They had no idea that this was just the beginning. The next hour unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony of corporate justice. As my team of auditors and security personnel secured the building's key offices, I laid out the extent of my investigation into Sterling Enterprises operations. Examining documents, 9 years of systematic fraud, I announced, clicking through presentation slides, unauthorised share transfers, manipulated board votes, and of course the mysterious circumstances surrounding my father's death. Ethan's face went from red to ashen. You can't prove God. Actually, I interrupted, pulling up an email chain on the screen. I can prove everything, including your late-night meeting with Dad the day before his heart attack. That meeting was nothing, Ethan shouted. You're twisting it. I clicked to the audio file. Shall we listen? Your voice, threatening him. Sounds pretty clear to me. Diana stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. You're making accusations without what? Evidence. I clicked to the next slide. Security footage appeared, showing Ethan entering Dad's office that night. The cameras you thought were disabled still recorded to a backup server. Interesting conversation you had with him, Ethan. Especially the part about stepping down or facing consequences. You had no right to that footage, Ethan roared. That's private, I shrugged. Privacy doesn't cover crimes. The board members were now openly staring at Ethan, who had begun to sweat visibly. That's not... he stammered. The police have been very interested in reviewing this footage, I continued calmly, along with the toxicology report I had run on samples from Dad's last medical exam. Fascinating what modern testing can detect even years later. Diana lunged forward, voice shrill. You're lying. You fabricated it all. I held her gaze. Fabricated? Like the lies you told about Dad's death? His perfectly maintained composure finally cracked. You little bit... Mrs. Sterling, Charles Thompson interrupted sharply. I strongly advise against any further comments without legal counsel present. I smiled, thinking of all the nights I'd spent building this case, gathering evidence, waiting for the perfect moment. Speaking of legal counsel, the FBI agents in the lobby would like to have a discussion about certain offshore transactions. You've ruined everything. Deanna sobbed, collapsing into her chair. I hope you're happy, I nodded. Happier than you'll ever be. The room erupted into chaos. Board members rushed to distance themselves from Diana and Ethan, suddenly eager to cooperate fully with any investigation. "This isn't just about ownership," I announced over the commotion. "This is about justice for my father, for the employees you've exploited, for every investor you've defrauded." My phone buzzed. A message from security. "The FBI agents are ready, Miss Larson." Ethan made a desperate lunge for the door, but my security team was faster. "You'll pay for this, Emma!" he screamed as they restrained him. "I swear it!" I watched, unmoved. "You already have." As he was escorted out, I caught a glimpse of this scared little boy behind the corporate facade, the one who'd always known this day might come. Diana remained frozen in her chair, her perfect world crumbling around her. "You planned this," she whispered, "all these years." "I learned from the best," I replied coldly. "You taught me how to play the long game. Remember all those lessons about patience and positioning?" "You're a monster," she spat. I stepped closer, voice low. "No, Diana. I'm justice. You're the monster who destroyed my family." The board members who remained were now looking at me with a mixture of fear and respect. They'd witnessed not just a takeover, but the dismantling of an entire corrupt regime. As of this moment, I addressed them. Sterling Enterprises is under new management. Those who cooperate with the investigation will be treated fairly. Those who don't? I glanced at Diana's empty chair. "Will face the consequences." Outside the boardroom windows, police lights flashed in the growing dusk. 7 years of planning, of careful manipulation, of playing the grieving, defeated stepdaughter, all leading to this moment. But this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of phase 2. The next few weeks transformed Sterling Enterprises from the ground up. The media called it the Larson Revolution, a complete corporate restructuring that sent shockwaves through the business world. But for me, it was something more personal. Justice served cold and methodically. Ethan and Diana's arrests made headlines for days. Sterling A's, charged with corporate fraud and criminal conspiracy, became the talk of every business channel. But it was the follow-up story that really shook the industry. Late Co's death under investigation. Possible foul play. Sitting in my father's old office, my office now, I reviewed the latest forensic audit reports. Each page revealed another layer of their deception, another piece of the puzzle that had led to Dad's death. "Miss Larson," my assistant's voice came through the intercom. "The board members are here for the emergency session." I straightened my father's old photo on the desk, the only personal item I'd allowed myself in this space. "Send them in." The remaining board members filed in, looking considerably more humble than they had 3 weeks ago. Amazing how federal investigations could change people's attitudes. "Thank you for coming," I began, noting how they now hung on every word. "Today, we're discussing the future of Sterling Enterprises, or, as it will soon be known, Larson Technologies." A murmur rippled through the room at the name change. Symbolic, yes, but necessary. "The preliminary investigation has revealed that many of you were aware of Ethan and Diana's activities," I continued, watching their faces pale. "Some of you even assisted them." "Miss Larson," one of them started, "we were under tremendous pressure." "Save it," I cut him off. "I'm not interested in excuses. I'm interested in solutions. Each of you has until the end of the day to submit your resignations or evidence of your cooperation with the federal investigation. Choose wisely." As they shuffled out, my phone buzzed with a text from the prison where Ethan was being held. "Your stepbrother is requesting a meeting." I declined. Some conversations weren't worth having. Later that evening, as I reviewed the company's new direction with my team, Charles Thompson entered with another set of documents. "The toxicology results are conclusive," he said quietly. "Your father was poisoned." "They've added first-degree murder to the charges." I nodded, feeling a weight lift that I'd carried for 9 years. "And Deanna, cracked under questioning this morning, blamed everything on Ethan." "He's not taking it well." Of course she had. Deanna Sterling had always been a survivor, willing to sacrifice anyone, even her own son, to save herself. The next morning, I called an all-company meeting in the main auditorium. Every employee, from executives to maintenance staff, gathered to hear the new direction. Sterling Enterprises was built on my father's principles of innovation and integrity, I began, principles that were betrayed by those who put greed above ethics. Today, we return to those values. I announced the changes: improved employee benefits, ethical business practices, and a profit-sharing program that made everyone stakeholders in our success. But most importantly, I concluded, we're establishing the William Larson Foundation for Corporate Ethics, funded by the recovered offshore accounts. First mission: investigating suspicious deaths in corporate America. The applause was deafening. That evening, as I prepared to leave, I found an old photo album in Dad's desk. Inside was a picture of us at my college graduation, both smiling before Diana and Ethan had entered our lives. "You were right, Dad," I whispered. "Patient revenge is the sweetest kind." My phone buzzed. Diana's lawyer this time. She was offering to testify against Ethan in exchange for leniency. "No deal," I texted back. "Let them destroy each other, just as they tried to destroy my father's legacy." The city lights twinkled outside my office window as I reviewed tomorrow's agenda: board restructuring, ethical compliance programs, and the launch of our new technology division. Ethan had once sneered that the board meeting was for shareholders only. He never imagined that his stepsister would end up owning not just the shares, but the entire game. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just taking back what's yours. It's building something better from the ashes of what they destroyed.